All right, I think that's my cue. Well, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us for the third event in our Summer of Book Fest speaker series. We're very excited to have you all with us today. My name is Nicole Cook, and I'm the Executive Director at the Western New York Book Art Center. And my co-host today is Rosemary Williams, our Education Director. Rosemary will be collecting your questions throughout the presentation and asking as we go, so make sure you make good use of that chat box during Denise's talk. For those who might be engaging with us for the first time, the Western New York Book Art Center is an arts and cultural nonprofit devoted to printing and book-related arts. So that encompasses everything from letterpress, screen print, bookbinding, origami, calligraphy, papermaking. The list really goes on and on. We're located in the heart of downtown Buffalo, but as you can see, we've been going virtual during COVID and serving our community with Zoom programming like this talk today. This speaker series is presented by our friends at the Printing Industries Alliance, and we're joined today by PIA President Tim Freeman, who will share a little bit more about the great work that PIA does to champion print as a contemporary medium. Tim?
Thank you, Nicole. I really just wanted to take a minute to welcome you all and thank you all for being here with us today. This has really turned out to be, I think, a great series. It features parts of the printing process that oftentimes I think people don't really clue in on. So it's a great opportunity. We've looked at paper. Last week we looked at intaglio printing or engraving. This week we're going to be looking at bookmaking, and we have a real craftsperson to do our presentation today. You'll be able to tell from her presentation that Denise really loves books, and I think you'll really learn a lot and enjoy the program. So without further ado, Nicole, take it away.
All right, thanks, Tim. So I'm excited to introduce today's speaker, Dennisse Santos. She's here today to teach us about the art of bookmaking. Denise is an artisan craftsperson and the head bookbinder at Quality Bindery Services. Fun fact, Quality's president, Kathy Hartmans, is on the call today. She happens to be the vice president of the board at the Book Art Center and the chairperson of the board at the Printing Industries Alliance, so this is basically a family affair at this point. Denise came to Quality Bindery Services in 1998, and she was a natural at the hands-on work in the mechanical binding department, which led her to study the mastery of ancient art of bookbinding and repair. In 2005, Denise became the head bookbinder. She repairs old Bibles. Quality does not do restoration work, so make sure you pay attention to the difference between repair and restoration. And she often creates new books. She mends almost any book that comes Quality Bindery's way, and she works with all sorts of materials from book cloth, real and imitation leather, linen, even fabric from local sewing stores. One of her most unusual pieces was a book cover finished in ostrich leather. Her largest, a City of Buffalo book, 28 inches by 35 inches, bound map plates, which were handsomely bound in black imitation leather with gold foil stamping. With the advent of Pinterest, Instagram, and Etsy, people locally and around the world get more and more ideas to make the book of their dreams. Finding Quality Bindery Services online, Denise takes their description of what they do and explains how she can make it happen. She never says it cannot be done. Denise lives in Buffalo, New York with her children and her fiance. When she's not in the shop, she's probably at home playing with her boys. Denise, take us away.
Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Yep, we can hear you, Denise. Okay, so I've been working here for 20 years. I've done pretty much everything around the shop. Years later, I was introduced to hardcover, and it's something that I really enjoy doing. Every book is different. Every book is handled different, and every book is special on its own way. Today, I will be showing you step by step how to bind a hardcover book. I will first start by showing you the materials that we use that you would need to complete the book. The first thing you need is adhesive glue, and it's pretty much similar to Elmer's glue. You will need a 2-inch brush, an inch brush, a needle not thicker than 1/8 of an inch, your thread, which I'm using red today so that you can see the color once it's on the book, but we normally use the white thread. Again, matching the color of the sheets of the book. You would need a bone, headbands, which is something that we glue at the edge of the top of the book just to give the book some color or style. The poker for after you're done sewing, and scissors. The first step that we do is glue the first 6 and last sheets. So I will be showing you that now. You count 5 sheets, turn them. You want to have a space about 1/4 of an inch in between the sheets, so then you can apply the glue. And I will show you that in 1 second. So I don't know if you guys can see, but you're gluing about this much.
Denise, we had a question. Why are you gluing the pages?
You have to glue the first 6 and last sheets so that when you open the book, it holds on to your book. Your book will split open if you don't have the first sheets secured. As you can see this one, you don't see the thread. But when you go a little bit towards the middle, you see the thread. If you have it in the beginning, when you first open, the book is gonna tear right here. It will be no reinforcement. That's why we glue the first 6 and last.
Thank you.
So after you do that, you apply the glue and you glue them on. You glue them on, you press them down. And you do the same thing. You turn your book face down and you do the same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and spread them out. It's easier for me to do. I've been doing this for the longest, but you can take 1 sheet at a time and spread them out. And glue them on however is best for you, 2 at a time, 3 at a time. I can do 5. So after that's glued, we take it to a machine that we have and we punch holes. The holes are about 1 inch apart from each other. I don't know if you guys can see it there. Now we can start sewing. You start at the top of the right hole, going over. Keep sewing towards your left. You know, go up and down, all the way to the left. When you get here, you're gonna do the same thing towards your right. But as you're going towards your right, you want to pull your thread so that it's tight. Again, that's what's holding your book together. And you tie 2 knots. You're gonna end where you first start sewing. You make 2 knots. When you cut, you leave about 1/8 of an inch so that you can tuck that in. Otherwise, your thread will come undone.
Denise, we had another question about the holes specifically. How far do you punch in the holes? I think they mean by like the edge of the paper.
1/8 of an inch. 1/8 of an inch. Everything is set up pretty much to 1/8 of an inch away from the spine. See if you guys can see here, that little bit. It's just 1/8 of an inch.
And then we have another question from Nina. Do you always have to have an even number of holes?
Not necessarily. It depends the size of the book. The main thing is when you punch them, you don't want your holes to be too close to the head and the foot of the book. You want to leave at least 1/2 inch. I left a little more this time, but nothing less than 1/2 inch. Then after the book is sewn, we're gonna glue on the end sheet. I'm using black today. We have different colors, cream, white. And the end sheet, the thickness of the end sheet depends on the stock that we're using. So if it's a newspaper, we use a heavier stock of end sheet. If it's regular offset paper, then we use lightweight cover stock. So the same distance or amount that you glued the first 6 and last, that's how much you're gluing on the end sheet also. And you'll see it better now, what I mean by the 1/4 of an inch. That much. When you glue it onto the book, you want to come as close to the thread as possible. Then you press down. I use my bone. You want to make sure the end sheet is glued on properly. And same thing. Now, another thing that we do is mark the front of the book. So when we case the book, we know what's the front of the book. After that, we jog it, and now we're gluing the spine.
Denise, have you ever glued a book backwards?
Yes. Yes, I have. Not many, but yes.
It happens.
And I don't like it. You know, pretty much everything, I'm not gonna say everything, but most of the mistakes that are done binding a hardcover book can be fixed. Most things you can either take a trim and cut a little bit off, or you can make a copy. We have little tricks. So now the cover material that we're gonna be using, it's what we call linen cloth. It's blue, so I'm gonna use the blue headbands. And that we glue on to the top and the bottom of the book. This is one of the easiest steps of hardcover. You know, this is something you do that I did when I first started doing it. Now I do the harder stuff. I have girls that can do this part of the job. So after that, we're gonna use cheesecloth, and we're gonna glue that on. And what that does is, again, it secures the end sheet in case for some reason it breaks or something, it'll still at least hold the end sheet together. So you're just securing that the book stays together.
Denise, we have a question. Is this called perfect binding? Or
Core sewn binding. We do different kinds of bindings too. Pen gluing, smile sewing, side stitching. But this one's called core sewn because of the way the holes are and the way it's sewn.
Okay.
So your book is ready. Now we can make the case cover. What we use is binders boards. I have a machine that I normally can run my material through and it will apply the glue on. I don't have to do it by hand, but today I will be doing it with the adhesive glue. We can use either or. So not a lot, but just a decent amount of glue, what you think you're gonna need. Place it down, press down. It looks like that. For the next one, about 1/4 inch again, away from the board. You do the same thing, apply adhesive glue.
And Denise, we just had a clarification. Is it linen book cloth? Is that what you're working with, that blue piece?
Yes. And I can do this by eye, but you can measure, you know, to see if you have the 1/4 inch in between each board.
One other question, Denise, how do you know how wide the joint should be? I think, this is from Jennifer. I think that means between like the spine piece of board
And the boards, that's why I said you need a tape measure, ruler, and you want to measure 1/4 inch in between each board. So 1/4 here and 1/4 here.
Is it always 1/4 inch, or sometimes is it a little larger if your book is larger?
If it's a Bible, I go a little wider. It depends on how heavy is the cover. For repairs that I do, instead of going 1/4, I go 1/2 inch. Most of the times the boards are double the thickness of the board that I'm used to working with. The trick on that space is to give it enough room so when you open your book, it opens. So your book is not like this. You only give it, let's say, 1/8 inch, your book is not gonna open flat. It's gonna open, and you don't want that. How can you read the book like that? So I give it enough space so that your book open.
Okay. Oh, and one more question about that piece of book board. Does the spine of the board relate to the thickness of the text?
Okay, yes. The thickness, if your book is 1/2 inch thick, you want to add 1/8 inch to that. So let my book is 1/2 inch, I want to have a spine that measures 5/8. And for your boards, you want them to be the same size width, but on the length, you want to add an eighth to the top and an eighth to the bottom. So you're adding a quarter to the length size.
Thank you.
So after we're done with that, see, I have extra material, so we can cut that off. Now I'm gonna show you how to cut your corners. I always cut out. You know, some people cut like this or try to go. No, I always cut out, and I will explain the reason why. When you cut, you leave an eighth of an inch. An eighth of an inch on each corner. And you turn your cover around and the same, out. Then we're gonna glue the edges. Apply glue to the edges. Give yourself half-inch wraparound on the edges. I may have a little more, but you give yourself a half-inch so you have enough to turn your material in. Okay, now I'm gonna show you why we left that eighth of an inch. You see those corners? You wanna tuck in. So when you fold them over, your corners look good. Otherwise, if you don't tuck that in, your corners will look like that.
We just had a comment, Denise. Someone said clever. Thanks, Jen. And then we had a question, I think not so much pertaining to the book board, but more about the book in general. Does there have to be different weights for threads depending on the book size or thickness?
I use the same thread.
Okay.
And if I feel that I need to sew a second time, I do that. The hole is big enough that I can thread it 2 times. But no, your needle doesn't change it, and I don't change the size either. I use the same. And it's the 18-count thread. I don't know if you guys can see it there.
Mm-hmm.
So now we apply glue to these 2 edges and fold them in. Most of the materials that we use, I'm able to, see it gets messy with the glue, I'm able to wipe my hands, but on linen, you can't. You get glue on this, there's no way to get it off. Okay, now our cover is done. And it's time to case it in. I always measure it to make sure it's gonna look okay. Okay. And now we're gonna glue. And what I always tell people is always glue out. Always out. And when you place your book down, just even it out. And you're gonna see you're gonna have that 1/8 of an inch all the way around. Press down.
And Denise, just a question about the glue. What kind of glue is this again?
It's similar to Elmer's glue. Very similar. Adhesive glue is what we call it. Then you take your bone and you want to, see, we have a machine that can do this also. And we hinge it, and then you see the hinge. But if we don't have the machine, then you can use the bone. And you can see that crease. Now, if you do this at home and you have something heavy, then you could set it on top of the book, leave it for a couple hours, come back, and then open your book. You don't want to open it right away. Everything's still wet. So it might not, I mean, I'm doing it, but it's fine. See, that's what your book is going to look like. It's all done.
Beautiful. We had a couple questions, Denise, too, just about the process in general. One about the thread. Again, is linen thread best, or do cotton and polyester threads work?
No, it has to be something that is waxed.
Okay.
So before, when we didn't have this kind of thread, it's gotta be a little bit thicker. Can't be too thin of a thread, because otherwise it'll break.
Yeah. I'd imagine polyester could probably work, but cotton I feel would be too like soft.
Yeah.
It could snap, yeah, which is why the wax is really nice to hold that thread together.
And if you have a candle, or, you know, you can wax it by running this is what we call wax. You run beeswax. You run the thread and it waxes your thread. You want to wax so when you make the knot, it stays tight. Otherwise, it's going to come undone. But if you don't have it, then you don't have it, and you do it without. It'll work.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what we do at Book Arts too. So a couple questions specifically about machinery. One from Jennifer was, what did you drill the holes with? And one from Christopher, is there a machine for every part of the binding process, or do some steps still done by hand?
Okay, we have a picture about a Bible repair that will show the machine that I use to punch.
Oh, yeah.
Most of the stuff is done by hand, but the hinging, the making covers, we have a machine, like I said, that will apply the glue, and it's a little bit easier. I'll set my boards down, cut it, then it goes to the hinger to close the edges, and then it goes to the stamper, which is somebody that stamps the lettering on the books.
Denise, do you want me to share those photos?
If you like,
yeah.
So they can see the difference about the hardcover binding and the Bible and the book repairs.
Okay, I'll do that now.
Every book is handled differently. Every book is different. So it's like you have to see the book first and then go from there. We don't use tape. We only use the glue. A lot of people come in with duct tapes in their Bibles. It's not the best thing to do.
So Denise, I don't know if you could see the photos, but I have the one up of
the Bible.
Yes, okay, good.
That's how it came into us. And then you're gonna see the process of rebinding it. That's the machine that makes the holes, and you can see there.
So is it you just, I think I came in for a workshop once before that you taught, and you just stepped down on a pedal, right?
Pedal.
And you punch holes?
Yep. Turn it on, you step on the, set it up first, turn it on, and when you're ready, just hit that pedal.
I wish we had one of those.
That's what I like doing the most, is the Bibles. I get some really old ones, and you're kind of scared of touching them, but then at the same time, it's so satisfying when you see the aftermath. We do wedding books, newspapers, children's book. We've had it all. I mean, from the smallest Bible to the biggest book, they've all been challenging.
So I think we might have a couple questions. So for the, I think for the holes, can a hand drill work?
They can. Just as long as you keep in mind, you can make the holes with anything, anything. The trick about it is to remember that it's an eighth of an inch away from the spine. So, you know, you want to come in, see the little dot, you want to come in about, you know, there. If you make your hole over here more inwards and your cover is set up to only the 1/4 of an inch between the spine and the board, your book is not going to open. It's going to be tight because your hole is too far in. So if you keep it at an eighth of an inch, everything will work out. But you can make the hole with everything, even the same needle. I can show you right now that I can just poke the hole through, and that's good enough. That's all you would need. See?
Yeah, at Book Arts, we just use awls. So, we had a couple other questions. Can you talk about the foil stamping? I know that might not be something you directly do, but maybe.
No, that's not something I'm not related to. It's my coworker. She knows the fonts, the sizes, and everything. Colors. We have different colors. Pretty much what the customer chooses is what we put on the Bible, if we have it. If not, then Kathy or the customer will send the die to get done. You know, they're pre-order the die.
Kathy, I don't know if you wanted to jump in at all about the foil stamping. Feel free to, if you do.
Sure. The machine was made in the 1800s, so we're a little bit limited on, you can't take a font from the computer and say, please put this on our books, because a lot of times that won't work. But fonts don't change that much, so it's really easy to duplicate something that you have and come up with something that looks similar. So we have different color foils. We can order any kind of a die that you want. We set most of the type by hand with the Ludlow machine, and then Bertha stamps it on a machine that's got to be older than God himself. So, but it still works.
Thank you, Kathy. Thanks.
You're welcome.
All right, Denise, we had, let's see, we had a comment from Susan. Great job, you make it look easy, but I know controlling the glue, measuring all makes the difference.
Yes, I agree. The girls say the same thing here. Every girl that's worked with me, they say how you make it look so simple, Denise. But it's not really. You have to know how much glue to apply. Like I was a little bit messy here. How would I normally? But
well, you were going fast.
Yeah, and a repair doesn't take me long either. Some books that are really falling apart and pages are broken, you know, that would take me about to fix 45 minutes if it's really bad. If it's something like now that I'm used to doing the repair, it could take me 25 minutes to repair a Bible. That's just the repair. And then 5-10 minutes to make the cover, and then it'll get stamped and then comes back to me. It's not like it takes too long to repair them.
And so a question from Nicole, actually, can you talk about the difference between repair and restoration?
I don't do restoration.
Can you talk a little bit about the difference though? Like what would somebody come in for a repair, and when would you turn them away and suggest somebody else for restoration?
For example, if they bring me a Bible that is only, let's say, falling apart here at the hinge area, and let's say they want me to use leather to cover that up, or try to match. I won't do that if it's something, how can I explain it? If they don't want a new spine, I won't touch it. There's no way I can fix the original leather with another piece of leather. The only thing I could do is redo the whole spine.
Okay.
You know, restoration will be more fixing that brittle material that's already there, treating it. I'm not experienced with that. And if I play with something old, you know, you're risking me messing it up. So instead of doing that, we recommend people, listen, if your spine is falling off, we'll make a new spine. You will just have that different color here. You guys can see the dictionary. I believe we have pictures,
Yeah.
2 pictures of a dictionary. It'll be something like that.
Yeah,
That will be repair.
I could share those again real fast.
I have the dictionary and a children's book, and both spines are done differently. Not that one, that's the Bible. Okay, right there. See how it's broken right there? And what we did was just make a new spine. That's the dictionary. See, if they would want to restore it, I couldn't do that. By attaching it all to the same material, we just go ahead and make a new spine. And now if you show the pictures of the little book, I can show you something different.
I don't know if I have those ones. I think I just had the Bible and the dictionary. I'm sorry, Denise.
Okay. That was another repair that you see the writing was too close to the spine. So instead of having the material wrapping outside, it was inside. So you could only see the material, the new material on the spine, but not on the front cover. And if you don't want to lose writing, there's different ways to repair a book.
Kathy, did you say you wanted to mention something?
Yeah, generally speaking, when something comes into the front desk, the person will say they want it restored. So if you want it restored, it starts at around $200. What Denise did with that dictionary probably is around 75 to 125, depending on how thick it is and if we use real leather or imitation leather. We do have a source that we can send it down to be repaired if they want it restored, but generally, if it's worth something, yeah, you should send it to be repaired if it's got a value to it. But if it's just a sentimental thing, what we do will allow you to do it economically and not have to worry about that extra price or extra cost.
And a couple more questions too. Are those rolls of book cover fabric behind you, Denise?
Yes, this is some of my cover material. We have linen, we have imitation leather, we have leather, ostrich. We have a bunch of material here, which we have a book that when customers come in, they show them in the front office, and you choose your cover material, your end sheet paper, and so on. But this is mainly what we use.
If a customer wants to supply a cover paper, can they do that?
Yes, you can do that. I've done, a lady came in and I did a book, I don't remember if it was zebra skin, but she had different color skins and it was done. We did one with a heart that looked like the material was very stiff, like wood looking. We did it too.
What's one of the craziest books you've ever bound?
Oh my God, the smallest Bible I did. It was very little, very little. I didn't think I can do it and I did it. It was something very tiny, tiny and old. But we did it. That was challenging. I didn't want to break the pages or put too much glue or apply too much pressure. I mean, you have to take so many things in consideration when you're working on a book that's very old.
Yeah.
And I've had them old. I've worked on a lot of old books.
A question from Susan, actually more about ordering. Do you do virtual selection process for out-of-state customers?
Kathy takes care of that.
So
we have
a,
all over.
we can send swatch samples out from the material company that we buy material from, or we can just send you swatches if you say, I want this color, I want that color. Then we can send those to you in the mail or send you a picture of it via email.
Thanks, Kathy. And thanks, Susan, for the question. We had another question, Denise. So many good questions today, folks. From Jackie. Can you remind us again what the margin on the covers is and how much larger than the book block the cover is?
You mean from here to here?
I think so. I think
the width.
Yeah.
It'll be the same size board from here to here.
And then top to bottom, how much space do you leave?
If it's 1/2 inch for 5.5, for example, you add 1/4 of an inch. So it'll be 5 3/4. Let's say this is 5 this way, it'll be 5 by 5 3/4, head and foot.
And we will also be, well, we're recording this today, and we will also be putting this up on our site. So if you ever needed to review any of the steps that Denise has shared with us today, you can find those up shortly. Rewatch it. I think I've gotten all of the questions in the chat, but if anyone wants to pop in their question again and give me a nudge, please do so. Sometimes I skim over some, so. Oh, another question from Susan, and Denise, this might be another Kathy question or maybe for you. Would you guys, after you complete the finished book, would you be able to handle shipping to a customer?
We ship all over the country. We can ship UPS, post office, FedEx, whatever they want us to do. Generally, we ship it all the U.S. Post Office, but we wrap it up really nice in a box or an envelope to protect it and ship it wherever it has to go.
Thank you.
We don't only do books either. We've done boxes for the books, like, you know, the boxes that you put the book inside. We've done a couple of those too. Sleeve cases, I believe they're called.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I think that was all the questions. I just wanted to reiterate too, and Nicole had also put it in the chat, next week, our speakers will talk a little bit more about the foil stamping, our speakers from Grover Cleveland Press. So if you want to learn more about that too, please tune in for that. Okay. Any last things you want to share with us, Denise, either about the books? I know we chatted yesterday and you were like gushing about all of the books that you've worked on, which was just amazing to hear from you.
We've done a lot, and I gotta say it's been exciting for me because, like you girls explained in the beginning, it's been a learning experience. It's not something I went to school for. It's something that I learned day by day by messing up. A lot of frustration, but a lot of reading, a lot of YouTubing, and looking at books that came in. I would learn how to bind and repair the books that were coming in. So I love what I do. That's all I can say. I enjoy it and I love what I do.
Well, we're glad you're doing what you do. A lot of thank yous in the chat. Thank you so much for sharing your craft. And then a last question again from Susan, who's probably going to order a book from you folks very soon. Do you use an order form to have a repair done? I think maybe like, yes.
Yes.
We have, if you go on our website, our brand new website, we have order forms for all the binding that we do, whether it's a repair, a new book, thesis book, Bibles, all of it's right there. So just print it out and send it in.
And I just popped the Quality Bindery website in the chat too, so you'll be able to click on that and check them out.
And if you have an idea of or style of how you want your book done, and we can do it, we'll do it.
Thanks, Denise.
Mm-hmm.
Nicole, you want to say a couple last things?
Sure. Well, first, thank you so much, Denise. This was an awesome presentation. I really agree that you make it look easy, but we all know that you have years of experience and all of these kind of measurements you can do by sight and, you know, quick flicks of the wrist with the glue. It takes a lot of practice. So it really was exciting to watch you make the book today. And
when
for anybody,
you guys try it, you'll see it'll be easy.
well, and on that same note, I did want to mention that the Book Art Center has hardcover binding kits, and we actually source our supplies for those kits from Quality Bindery Services, so you know you're getting the good stuff. Those kits are available on our website at wnybookarts.org/store, and they're actually on sale for Summer of Book Fest. So if you want to try your hand at hardcover binding, this is a great time to do it. If you have a more advanced project, we would definitely suggest filling out that order form at Kathy's place because you need an expert craftsman to make repairs and replacements. So, and then I also just wanted to thank PIA and AIGA Upstate New York, who is helping us promote these speaker series to our friends farther upstate. One of the great things about virtual programs is that you don't need to be in Buffalo to attend. So we hope that there's some folks tuning in today from anywhere in the world, really. Our next talk will be next Friday, August 21st. It's also at noon, and it's Mike and Tom Deegan from Grover Cleveland Press. They're going to be giving a virtual shop tour, and a lot of their specialty printing includes really high-end finishing, so die cutting, foil stamping. So those demos will be part of their talk too, so make sure you sign up for that. You can register also at our website, wnybookarts.org, and I think Rosemary popped a link in there somewhere at some point, but you can Google us, easy to find.
Just popped it in now.
Thank you. And I think that's about it for today, but thank you all so much for joining us, and I hope you had a great time. Summer of Book Fest rolling on.
Nice job.